mentioned earlier. So in this session, we are going to learn about Power Automate and how we can use it with D365 Finance and Supply Chain Management. I am Satish Panwar, and I am Senior Solution Architect with Hitachi Solutions America. We have also provided the contact information just in case if you have any questions, or you can also reach out to us via community.dynamics.com as well. With me, I also have co-presenter Sukrut Parab. He is a technical architect at Hitachi Solutions and is an MVP and renowned contributor in the community.dynamics.com as well. And we have shared the contact information as well. So without taking too much time on introductions and whatnot, let's get into the content right away. So the very first question that comes to mind is Power Automate. Why? There are just so many tools that are available to do either integrations or do whatever you need to do. We can, make modifications to D365 finance and supply chain. Why Power Automate? Uh, well, one of the reason is it's a product, and it's a product which integrate a lot of other products without you having to write any kind of code. Uh, so if I were to say what exactly is flow, I'll say it's more like turn outdated to automated, or it can also be in simple words, it can be work less, do more. That's the power of Power Automate. It can really help you boost productivity. You can integrate multiple systems. You can have intelligent workflows, and all of it. You get assurance from Microsoft that they continue to invest in the tools and technologies so that you can integrate a lot of products. And to that extent, they recently acquired another company, Softomotive, and with that they get the tools Win Automation, which comes to which is part of Power Automate, and it's available to users who are licensed with Power Automate at no cost. And this acquisition was done this month only. So a lot of investment that's Microsoft is doing, and these are the right tools to use on a go forward basis. It's a little bit difficult for especially D365 finance and supply chain developers to understand, why we are going out of the traditional development. And that the simple reason is there is just too much complexity when it comes to integrate anything. When you start writing, all the connections, all the URLs, etc., and whatnot, Power Automate just gives you all the flexibility. So just use it and be done with it. And we have a couple of demos lined up later as well. So how do you go about connecting all different products? So Microsoft provides a lot of standard connectors, and just pick one of these standard connectors and then start integrating those products. So say for example, if you need to do integration between Outlook and D365 for finance and supply chain, you can just use Office 365 Outlook connector. Or if something is getting posted on Twitter and you want to do something with it, you can make connections with the help of Power Automate directly with Twitter, get the content information, and then you can push it into D365 finance and supply chain management if needed. Or if you even want to integrate with other D365 products like D365 Sales. There are a lot of features and functionalities that are kind of coming out, and I think as part of D365 Saturday, we also had Saturday and Sunday. We also had a lot of sessions on dual write and few other things. Then it becomes, okay, which one do we use? Do we use integrated? Do we use dual write? Do we use CDS? Do we use Power Automate? So the choice is, you guys need to be familiar with different options that are available, and on the basis of that, pick one. There is nothing right or wrong. It's just that you need to see what your business requirements are, and can you stay with uh, not can you stay with a simplified version of the solution and not making it too complex to the extent where it's difficult to maintain, deploy, and manage as well. So with all this connectors, how do we go about connecting with D365 Finance and supply chain? Well, there is a connector for that as well. And recently, you may have seen that this becomes the icon for finance and operations. This has been there in Power Automate for quite some time. So use the connector, and once you have the connector, you can just start building your integrations. In certain cases, connector is available, but users may not have any idea on how to get started. Well, for that, Microsoft provides a lot of templates. So in this case, in order to access the templates, you can go to flow.microsoft.com, and you have all the information there. Once you have the information, select the connector out of the connector list. So in this case, I have selected a connector which is D365 for operations. And once you select it, it will give you all the templates that uses that connector. And these are out of the box. These are more or less like plug and play kind of integrations for you to review how it works. And once you get the idea, then you can start building your own as well. Microsoft has built in a lot of efforts and features and functionalities, and the Power Automate can be triggered with the help of business events as well. So it's a new concept that was introduced in D365, and whenever something is happening in D365, it can trigger a business event, which is not typically written at a table level. It's written more at a business logic level. So whenever an order is confirmed, whenever a sales invoice has been posted, and so on. And those business events, once triggered within the system, can be accessed from Power Automate. And once you can access it, then you have endless possibilities, and you can use all the features and functionalities that Power Automate provides you. Now, there are so many custom events that we may have to write depending upon what the business need is. But Microsoft is continuously enhancing the list of existing business events. So feel free to take a look at, what do we have in the system, and on the basis of that, if one doesn't satisfy your needs, then you can always create a custom one. And on the Docs website, they have provided a detailed instructions as well. Data entities. So Power Automate behind the scenes uses the native concept to D365 finance and supply chain, and that is data entities. Data entities is nothing but a conceptual abstraction and encapsulation of all the underlying tables. So if you remember, customer master may be stored in 50 different tables or 20 different tables, and you don't have to access those 20 tables. What you need to do is just access the data entities, and that's about it. If you are creating custom entities, then you have to just make sure that the public property is set and your data management is enabled as well. Once that's done, you can use your custom entities along with your Power Automate. So what can we do as far as Power Automate is concerned? It provides basic functionalities as well as some advanced ones. So from a basic perspective, crude operations. So create, read, update, and delete. The only change is instead of read, Power Automate is using get. So just in case if you don't find read, just use get action, and then you should be able to read data from finance and supply chain. You can also delete data So there may be scenarios in which you do some processing and you need to delete some data from D365. You can use Power Automate as well. Another one is get list of entities if you want to just know what entities are available. Uh, the most powerful action is the execute action. And with the help of it, you don't want to deal with on a record by record basis, and you want to push a lot of records in the system, and you want to deal with it with files and whatnot. So for that, use the execute operations instead of the regular CRUD operations. With that, we will start with demo. And the first one that we have is create a record in finance and operations. So we'll see what we can do. So let's go to a live demo from that perspective. So here I have my environment. So what we want to do from a scenario perspective is we have a file on OneDrive, and it's called customer group 1.xlsx. I'll quickly download the file so I can show you what I have in there. So here I have this is a customer group. So this is the template that comes out of the box. And what we have done is we have populated it with two customer group IDs. So in this case, Power A1 and Power A2. And what we want to do is we want to use Power Automate, and with the help of that, we want to create a record in finance and operations. So let's quickly take a look at the form where we want to create the record. So customer groups. So here you can see that Power A1 and A2 does not exist right now. So simply what we have done, and we'll go into a little bit of details on how we have created this. So simply create a record in D365. I'll run it and run flow. I'll say the most challenging part in doing any kind of these flows is get the right environment and get the right access. So once you have it, once you have the correct license plans that you can use, then it should be easy. So if we go back in there, we just ran this, so it just completed 20 seconds ago. So now if we go back to the form and refresh it, we should see two new customer groups that has been created. So this is, this is a very simple integration that we just completed. Now, how we did it is if I click on edit, here we can see, so in this case, I'm manually triggering a flow, but it can be done on a regular basis, whenever any file is placed on a certain directory or OneDrive. So there are a lot of options available. Then what we are doing is we are listing the rows present in a table. So here we have specified, we are using OneDrive for business. So I have not written even a single line of code to specify, what is OneDrive and where exactly it is and whatnot. Simply what I've done is just click on plus and use the action or connector for Excel. Just use list rows present in table. Then you specify the file that you use. So just click on this directory again. No browsing related code that I have written. Select the file, and once you have it, you select the table. Now, table is something where you may run into issues. So what you want to do is you go back to the Excel, just in case while trying this out, you guys don't get it. Just select this and make sure that this is listed as a table in your Excel, and you give it a name as well. I think it's somewhere on data. So just format this as a table, and then it will ask you for a table name, whatever table name you specify. So in this case, we have specified it as table 2. If this is blank for you, or you are getting certain errors, which means that it's more of an Excel formatting error rather than anything else. Once you have that information, which means Now we have triggered it. We are able to read rows from Excel, and then we are saying apply to each. So apply to each. So for all the rows that we have read from the Excel, we pass in the automated values. Again, no code. Everything, no code has been written for this. Specify the environment. Again, if you have access to the correct environments, you will be able to see it. We have seen folks trying to do this across tenants and whatnot. So our suggestion in that case would be stay with single tenant. Don't try to uh, create complexity to start with. Go basic. Once you have it figured out, then you can build complex scenarios. Once you select the environment, you can select the entities. So all the entities that are there in D365, you'll be able to see it here. So it's a pretty long list. Select the customer groups, and then you're just saying, use the input from the previous step. And what happens is when you select the entity name, only then the customer group and all other fields kind of come in. You can also use advanced options, and what it would do is it would show you everything or all the fields that are there in the customer groups form. So if you need to do any additional mapping, you can just specify it here. And the field mapping is so simple. So you just click in here, and here you'll be able to see, these are all the fields. If you need to pick one, you just pick one from here, save it, your field mapping is done. So that's how you do your field mapping. So that was about create record. And we have provided certain screenshots as well, so that if you are trying it on your own, you'll be able to look at what we have used, and then build a flow on your own. The next one that we have is, we just showed you record by record basis. The next one, we are using the REST APIs. Again, everything is native to AX, and we are just integrating D365 finance and operations with Power Automate. And in this example, we want to use the data packages. The benefit of this is that there is no bad jobs that are kind of running continuously within finance and operations. You can set up any kind of recurrence, or if someone needs data on an ad hoc basis, then the scheduling can be set up completely outside finance and operations, which means if you are doing any kind of environment restores, etc., you don't have to worry about it. Plus, you can decide where you need to extract and send that information. So this is more of outbound integrations to D365 finance and supply chain. So the scenario we have is we want to export some data from D365, and we want to store it on OneDrive. And while doing it, we want to use an action called export to package. It's a REST APIs that you want to use. So let's go back to our environment. So what we want to do in this case is, this is my OneDrive, and I'll quickly refresh it. So there are only 3 files that are present right now. Then we have our finance and operations. And here we have customer groups, and in customer groups now we have Power A1 and A2 that we just created with the help of previous flow. Next, what we want to do is we want to go back to my flows, and we have created another flow. So recurring data integration. Again, in this case, I'm just going to run this manually. And I'll just click on run. So what it what it does behind the scenes is it goes through the processing. So it will make all the connections to D365 finance and supply chain. Then it will schedule a data job within the environment, get the information out, and once the information is out, then it will also post it on the OneDrive. So in this case, we can see that a new file has been added, and this file has been added automatically by that flow. Now, if you were to download this file and look at the information, so there are multiple files because it's a package, and once you open it, you will see that all the data that we have in the system is there, and it also included whatever you created previously. So that's a simple demo, but to understand how all this works, we can go to edit, and here, so these are all the steps that we have written. So in this case also, we are manually triggering a flow, and once we trigger it, we are calling export to package API. So provide the environment, make all the appropriate connections. If it's as simple as just add a connection. Once you have it, then select the action as data management definition groups dash export to package, and all these are available here. So this is just execute action. Now, this name that you see here called export to package this is something that we have renamed it to. But if you want to see, what that is, so you can always click on name. But this is execute action. So when you go about adding it in your environment, just click on this, select the connector, and then select execute action. And once you have it, then you can rename it to you so that when you look at your flow, you know which action is being performed in which section. So use it more of a, I'll say, help or documentation for your flow. Once you have it, specify the definition group ID. So in this case, what this is a name that we have given, and we have created this definition group ID within Dynamics 365. So here, if we go to workspaces, to data management, so we created this, and I'll load the project. So again, a very simple, it's just the name that kind of matters. Very simple name, and we have just added the entity. There is nothing more that we have done, and we have specified that it's a CSV file. Once you have that here, which means you can make a call, then we are tracking, we are just initializing a variable, because what may happen is you trigger something from Power Automate. It may take, say, for example, few seconds before it's complete. So what we want to do is we want to make a call again to finance supply chain, and then say, okay, is my execution complete? If the execution is complete, then only we can get the information. So this is just initializing variable. Once you have it, we are putting in due until status. We have added some delay, so we don't continuously ping the D365 finance and then try to see is it complete, is it complete. Instead, it's better to add some kind of a delay. And then we are executing the action. So what we are doing is, based on whatever we had in the previous step, which is called export to package API, we are now executing another action, which is get execution summary status, and we are passing in the execution ID that we got from the previous step. Once we have it, we set the variable, and this loop kind of goes in unless it's succeeded. So this is succeeded. Once it succeeds, then we retrieve the package URL. So again, specify the connection, specify the action. So in this case, the action getting used is get exported package URL. Specify the execution ID. Once you have it, you will get the URL. Then we are just using a get action. So in this case, if I click on this, it's a REST API action to involve. We are using get method, and we are passing the URL. This will be able to, the information is on the blob storage, And with the help of this, now we are pulling the information from the blob storage, given that almost everything is in the cloud. Once we have the information, then uh, you know storing the package on OneDrive. So we are specifying, store it in the directory for OneDrive, providing a file name. You can build your complexity, and then we are saying just file content. Again, just look at all the steps that we have done. No piece of code has been written, and this is something that you can do on your own. Uh, if we were to do this in D365, then think about just to create connections with OneDrive, where exactly that is. You will create an integration form where you'll specify all the parameters and whatnot. Now everything is just in Power Automate, and you'll be done with it. Save it. You can test it right from here in your dev environment, uh, and be done with it. So with that, let's go back to our presentation. I've also provided a link to the blog that I've written about the same topic. So if you guys want to know more details about it, you can read the blog as well. I'm skipping. These are the steps just in case the demo goes sideways. So the next one is UI flows. This is addition to, again, Power Automate. This didn't existed a long time back, so it has recently been added, and Microsoft put in a lot of efforts to bring out the UI flows, and it kind of allows you to integrate, say for example, Dynamics 365 with old applications that user for some reason may not be able to get rid of. Or it can also be used for for anything even outside Dynamics 365 Finance and Supply Chain. So it's an RPA feature, and it's within Power Automate. Helps save a lot of time and effort. Comes in two flavors. One is web-based version, and the second one is desktop-based version. Behind the scenes, it uses Selenium IDE. So if you guys are familiar with RSET, it also uses Selenium IDE. So the concept is quite similar, but RSET is used more for testing, etc. Whereas you can use UI flows for actual integrations. So with that, let's look at the demo. So here we have created a simple flow. It's under UI flows, and it's called month-end close. So what we want to do, so the scenario that we have taken is, on a monthly basis, the controller has to go in and open up all the ledger periods for the next month, and close the existing one or restrict the existing one to you, so that only certain users can post to the period that just got closed. We have seen instances wherein if the controller was away or something happened, if the controller didn't do it on time, the shipping might be on the floor on first of the month at 5 a.m., 4 a.m., depending upon whatever their starting time is, and they try to post a packing slip, and if it's posting to GL, now the period is closed, which means they cannot process packing slips, which means the entire shipping comes to halt. So now to solve it, we can use UI flows. So the way we have is, let me just go back to the system to show you what we want to accomplish. So here we have ledger calendars, which is again in finance. And we have our periods here. So these are all my fiscal calendars. And so in a fiscal calendar, I have selected a period ending in 131. And then all these are my legal entities, and these are my period statuses. So what controller has to do is, come in, log into the D365, then navigate to all this information, select all this, and then change the period to hold and click on update. Those are the steps. Similarly, open up period 2 and whatnot. And with Microsoft kind of adding more and more uh, you know actions that needs to be done, we just need to determine what's feasible for us to automate, where it makes sense. So an example would be, if you are doing allocation, so any uh, recurring steps that you kind of do, that every time it's the exact same thing. There might be certain filters that you may have to do, but apart from that, it's the exact same steps. You can now automate it. So let's go back to the flow, and in this case we will run it. So behind the scene, it opens up Selenium IDE, and here what it shows is the all the steps. Now all these steps, they have been recorded simply by clicking on record here. That kind of opens up the URL. Once it opens the URL, you do whatever you need to do. In the application, it tracks where you clicked, what option you opened up. So in this case, when I was showing you guys period status, so it says in the list, select the item 0. So it knows how many items are in there and on which one did I click. And then I also clicked on update button. So all these are automated. So how it would run is, I'll just run this. So it opens it up. And then it will just go through this. Give me 1 second. So I'll stop this and we'll run it again. I clicked on it, and that may be the reason. So window opened up, and then I clicked on that window, and that may have confused the automated testing process to see what exactly is going on. But in this case, what I did was I just closed it and ran it again, and now you can see the test completed successfully. So we close this, and if we go back here, refresh this, we select here, now we can see all these periods are on hold. So that's a very, very simple UI flow that we build, and with the help of it, you can save so much time and effort. So controller doesn't have to remember, okay, it's month end, and tonight I have to stay late because shipping might be going on for late, and then I have to stop all these periods, and I cannot give access to anyone else. And next day the shipping needs to continue. So just automate it, verify it, and you can pass the parameters. So in this case, if you saw that I was passing in a date of 131, but then you can extend this functionality and pull in any dates, which can be passed as a parameter from the Power Automate to UI flows. And once you have it, just build these integrations. Provided some screenshots, covered demo, recorded capture. So just in case, we have also given the recorded capture here as well. With that, I'll pass the baton to my co-presenter Sukrupar, and he will take us into virtual entities and a couple of other related topics. So over to you, Sukrupar.
Thanks, Satish. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. So 1 second. Let me go back and stop sharing. 1 second. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so today when I joined the first session, I saw all talking about virtual entities. So this is a recently 2 days back, the Microsoft announced the public preview for the virtual entities. So let's do the deep dive into the virtual entities. And I got some time yesterday to explore more on the virtual entities, and prepared a small demo as well. So we'll look at the what are the virtual entities are, uh, the architecture of the virtual entities, and then we'll take a look at the small demo on the virtual entities. So first, talking about the virtual entities enables the integrations of the data from finance and operations or any other external systems, and represents that data as entities in common data service without replication of that data, or without even doing custom coding. So in talking about data entities, whatever data entity is present within finance and operations with its public property equal to yes, those entities can be available in common data service as virtual entities. And we'll look into the demo when how we can enable those entities as virtual entities. So with the help of these virtual entities, finance and operations is a virtual data source in common data service now, which enables the full CRUD operations like create, read, update, delete, from common data service and Microsoft Power Platform, with finance and operations. So with these virtual entities, there is no associated tables of the entity instances in common data service, but instead of that, during the runtime, the entity, whatever entity instance is required, is the state of that entity is dynamically retrieved from the finance and operations. Each entity, virtual entity, is associated with virtual data provider, and we'll go a little deep and look at the Visual Studio and see how the data provider is built. Um, we- Data provider is built for this particular application. Um, so now, because all these public data entities from finance and operations are natively available in CDS now, that means we can use Power Platform capabilities for finance and operation in much faster and easier way. So jump into my next slides. Let's take a look at the architecture on how this exactly looks like. So architecture wise, if you can see on my slide on the left side, here is the common data service, which uses this virtual entity plugin. And there are 6 methods implemented, which are nothing but create, update, delete, retrieve multiple, and perform action. See, the last method, perform action, is used to call the OData actions, and the remaining operations, create, update, delete, are called using the custom service based operations. So if you can see over here on the right hand side, the OData API, which is only executes the action, perform action method, is only calls the OData API. Rest of the operations are called using the custom service CDS virtual entity custom service, which is nothing but a custom service within the finance and operations. So what happens actually when we call the when we call the virtual entity from finance and operations is, the call to the finance and operations through the virtual data source provider, data provider, which is nothing but this virtual entity plugin. It actually causes a secure connections, SSL or TLS 1.2 connection, web call to the CDS virtual entity service. That's the custom web service endpoint in finance and operations. And this web service converts the query call which you are getting from this virtual entity into the actual converts the query, the virtual entity names into the actual physical entity names within the finance and operations, and then invokes the create or read or update or delete operations.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah.
Can you be in presenter mode? Folks are reporting that it's very difficult to read.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Can you see it now? Is it better?
I think it's on two monitors.
Oh, okay.
So we are seeing the other version.
Just 1 second. Let me bring back the presentation.
If you just want to use one monitor, or I know there is a way for
Yes,
us to
that's what
check it
I'm
out.
trying to. Oh, okay. Maybe let me disconnect my other monitor in that
Yeah, that
case.
would work.
Yeah.
I was having a similar issue while running my UI flows, so I just disconnected my secondary monitor and just went on one.
At the top of the screen, there's a display setting. You can swap the screens there.
Okay. Is it? Can you see my screen now with in a presenter mode properly?
Yes.
Okay. So let me go back to the. Oops. Actual presentation of the. Okay. So coming back to the API calls, when we actually when the virtual call is made to the from the virtual entity to the finance and operations, this CDS virtual entity service, CDS virtual entity service gets called, and this is a service to service connection. So the service to service call, which is made using the OAuth authentications. So we'll look at now. We'll jump over to the demo and see how we can what is the configuration needed on finance and operation side, and how you can configure the Azure Active Directory application in from your Azure portal and connect the virtual and enable this virtual entity in common data service. So let me go back to the demo, wherein so everything starts with the make.powerups.com, wherein you can go to the advanced setting, which opens your common data service environment. So once I click this advanced setting, you can see this particular screen. In that, you can see virtual entity data sources. So this virtual entity data sources are nothing but the plugin, which is uh, this is nothing but a plugin which is required to connect to the finance and operations. So if you take a look at this particular finance and operations, and how this connects with the finance and operations is through the um, this particular configurations, wherein you can specify the target URL for your finance and operations environment, and then your tenant ID. You have to configure a separate register an app in Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, wherein you can you have you so in this particular scenario, I have created a new app registrations in Azure Active Directory, especially for the CDS integration, and you can register that app, get the client ID from there, and generate a new secret key for from there. So you can get this application ID from here. And this AAD resource is this is the AAD resource. This is a static kind of value for finance and operations integrations. Now, how we get this finance and operations virtual data provider? So for that, there are some packages provided, solutions provided, which you can import using solutions screen within your CDS environments. So these are nothing but some packages, solutions provided by Microsoft, which you can import. So as you can see here, Microsoft Operations, we support this, actually supports the one virtual entity integrations. The catalog provides all the list of virtual entities provides all the list of virtual entities which are marked as is public in finance and operations. Now, once we do this in finance and operations, what you have to do is within finance and operations, we have to create one user and register that applications which we created in Azure portal in Azure Active Directory applications. So first step is create a user. So let me go to the user screen. And filter by CDS integration. So I created this user manually, CDS integrations, and this user, there is a standard role which is created, which is CDS virtual entity application. This role needs to be assigned, and you have to remove the system user role from this particular user when you integrate this, and that's it. And after that, in Azure Active Directory applications, you can specify that particular client ID or app ID which we created in Azure portal with the CDS integration users. Once we do this, what happens during the actual calls is this is a 2-point. This is actually a 2-point translation. So if we go back to the and see this particular thing over here, what actually happens is first the virtual entity plugin calls the finance or common data service to finance operation apps. First translation occurs at the virtual entity plugin level, which translates the calling entity name into the actual physical entity name, and then the second translation happens is done by this virtual entity service, which translate that query expression coming from that virtual entity and builds that query operation into a query form, query build data source within the finance and operations and other needed technical framework things within the finance and operations, and calls the data entity behind the scenes. So with that, when we go to again back to this CDS instance, what you can do is you can go and this advanced find, and in the advanced find you can look for finance and operations. So these are the native CDS entities, and once you enable the finance and operations entities, you will start seeing those entities in this list. For example, so to get the list of entities, you can so once you import all these plugins and configure all these users and Active Directory authentication, you can see this available finance and operation entities option over here. And once you select this and click on result, you will see all the is public entities from finance and operations in this particular list. So in order to enable these entities, I just have to click these entities and click this visible checkbox to yes. So I enable this batch job entity and some few other entities like bank account entity to yes. In order to mark this visible yes, you can just click on the entity, and you can, it takes little time to open the screen. And just mark visible equal to yes and save this. And after that, it becomes available in CDS, and you can use that entity for consuming in Power Apps or in Power Automate. Not all entities are by default marked to yes. And the another thing is there is no proper way to filter the entities over here. So you have to search for the entities. That's the one thing I noticed. So if you can see, there are around 2012 public entities present within the finance and operations, which are available over here. So once this is done, now let me go back to the flow, and which I created a simple flow, which uses the CDS connector, not the inbuilt FNO connector, to create the bank accounts within finance and operations. So I'm just manually triggering the flow, reading this bank account file from the OneDrive. So this is how my bank account file looks like. And this is just for an example, wherein I am just creating the same dummy bank account with Power Auto as bank account ID. So what we do over here is you can add the connection to the CDS. And now with the CDS, when you add the CDS connections, earlier only the CDS entities were native CDS entities were present in the for the CDS connector. But with now, once you enable these virtual entities, you can create, record, or delete, update, and perform actions using CDS connector as well. So here I selected my environment, CDS environment, the entity name. Once you enable the entity to visible equal to yes, those entities are started showing over here. So I enable only a couple of entities right now. So few of them are like batch job and bank accounts. Rest of them and business events here you see, and rest of them are not enabled. So once you see that those entities, you can select over here and get rest of the things remain same. You can just get the values from your Excel, which is there on the OneDrive, and configure what you whatever required fields you want to pass to the entity so that your execution is successful. So let me quickly test this and run a flow. Oh, so I modified the flow at the end moment. So let me just remove the name for now and run it. So once I do this, and if I go to my bank account screen over here, it just creates the simple bank account with Power Auto, whatever I provided in bank account number and main account value. So you can specify all the fields like display values, ledger dimensions fields, which are represented as display values in data entities in your file, and import these things. Now, what it makes us easier is creating Power Apps using these as well. So just a quick look at the how you can do this is using, so if I create a new Power App, suppose my test app, create. Right now, the FNO connector is also present for all these actions. And if you go to the view data sources, you can see now all this is CDS connections which I made. And if you see these entities, these are my custom entities which I created. Those labels are not coming properly because of the label ID issues. But if you can scroll through this list, you can, the entities which are visible, marked as visible, those entities are available over here. And you can see you can use these bank accounts, for example, which I imported just now as a data source. Just go to the can grab a simple gallery, just insert over here, and specify a data source as bank accounts, and just your data is visible over here. So this is very simple now. These are very simple examples. Now let's go a little bit into the technicals and look at what happens actually behind the scenes. So this feature can be enabled through flighting. Right now it's for public preview, and in your development environments, if you are on above platform of the 34, this particular feature is available to you. You can enable this through the flighting. The list of all the finance and operations entities. So there is new CDS virtual entity list entity present, which gives the list of all the entities, and you can see these are the 2012 rows we see in the on the CDS instance to enable us as a virtual entities. So what actually is done is everything starts with the so this if you go to the model view and look for the new package called as CDS virtual entity within your instance, and if you go to the services node, this is actually what is nothing but this particular portion, which is your web API. So only perform actions. If you look at the service operations which are implemented within this service, you can see create, delete, update, retrieve as a single user, and retrieve multiple. These are nothing but the get operations, and remaining are the create, delete, and update operations. So these operations are implemented as a part of this custom service. Perform action. This perform action is for just use for the OData call. If you look at the service properties, the service operations properties, this is fairly simple. These operations are belongs to a CDS virtual entity adapter service class. So and there are not many objects present, so it's very easy to navigate through this package and look at these classes. So this is the actual class which is used behind the scenes to perform all the operations: create, read, update, and delete operations when you call the virtual entity from Power Automate or through the any Power platform. Now, because our entities are enabled for as a virtual entity data sources in CDS, you can access it anywhere. So where it stands in comparison to the dual write is you don't have to replicate your data. There is no data replication needed. With the dual write, you have to maintain two sets of data, and it's meant for there are two different. So the purpose is different for dual write as well as for virtual entity. If you want to maintain a set of master data within your both the systems, then dual write is suitable for you. Virtual entities, you don't have to replicate the data. You can access the finance and operations data, and you can, by the way, you can customize any customer engagement entities and use these virtual entities within the standard entities which are present within the customer engagement entities. You can customize those and get access to the finance and operations data in your applications. So here are some prerequisites. So version is PU34 and quality update. This particular quality update or later, this particular virtual entity is supported. You need a CDS environment, and it does not have any dependency on any other Dynamics 365 applications. Some important facts. So calculated fields are not supported within these virtual entities. You can the controller, if you want to look at the controllers, if you want to look at any issues, of course these are the service operations which you can utilize for debugging. In CDS entity, the GUID is primary key, and this GUID is nothing but created using the behind the scenes tables used for the finance and operations entities, table IDs and rec IDs. And you cannot join native and virtual entities in the same query. Time is almost over. So another topic I was going to cover about business events, but as we have already session earlier on the business events, so I'll stop over here and open the session for questions.
Wow. Look, I never cease to be amazed, Satish and Sukrut. I mean, essentially what this session believe it or not, what you have delivered in this session has been, I believe, over a decade's vision of Microsoft in unifying its applications. What you've discussed essentially felt to me, what you were talking about was the dynamic CE application development. It feels as though everything is coming together now. The FinOps world, the CRM world, Power Platform world, everything has come together in the session that you've described. Virtual entities. I mean, we've been using virtual entities for, I think, 3-4 years. We've been using virtual
Yeah, and
entities
it's
for.
very new for finance and operations now because it's just coming into the picture. And right now we have, of course, two connector, finance and operation connectors and CDS connector, but this is just now the capabilities are being added in CDS. So definitely it's going to be interesting to see in the future what Microsoft offers, and what improvements Microsoft brings in. There is a lot to explore in this area. The time is not enough, of course.
Wow, yes, look, so it's phenomenal. I mean, this session alone really bridges the gap between all the different the stack, the Dynamics 365 stack. This session really bridges the gap, really does. So I think it's a fantastic way to end this event with this particular session. There's lots of questions. There are lots of questions, I have to admit, in the channel. I don't know where to begin because there are so many questions. But let's spend 10 minutes. Obviously, it's the end of the event now, so there are no more sessions. So we can spend 10 minutes going through these questions. So yep, I'm happy to get started with that. So obviously, Dr. Ludwig mentioned about the challenges around running flows across instances. I think I know what you're referring to there because there's certain CDS connectors that you can use and the authentication support between instances, I'm guessing, is what you're referring to. I don't know if you have more to elaborate on that point, Satish, related to the way the connectors, the Power Automate flows, the challenges you have with using Power Automate across different instances. But that's the question from Dr. Ludwig. Is to do with but you can come back to that if you don't obviously have any more feedback on that particular matter related to the challenges of using Power Automate flows across multiple instances. Doctor, I'm guessing it's to do with authentication and connectors, connector types, but I guess it's the use case with using it across instances. That's my assumption. I don't know, Sukrit, Satish, are you able to share more about anything we need to be aware about using these Power Automates across instances?
Sure. So I was on mute. Sorry. So there are instances wherein we have seen, when we are moving flows from one instance to another, or if you want to deploy it to other environments, this just needs to go through the regular deployment process. And as part of that, we also need to make sure that all the connectors, the users with which the flow might get built may be completely different than how it may be executed. So that there needs to be a roadmap that we need to define for the users as well as for all the instances as we deploy these through the code deployment process. One thing that we have seen is moving the flows from one environment to another. We can always export it, import it, and whatnot. Typically, what happens in that case is that we lose out the entire source control. So we just need to leverage the source control and then move it to other environments and make sure all the connections are good before executing.
That's true. So flows have only recently become solution aware, and there are still many limitations with Power Automate flows. So yes, one of the big challenges is around the deployment aspect. They've introduced new features around variables and made them solution aware, allowing you to trigger. So now they've added recent support to allow you to trigger from within inside of model-driven CDS apps and things like that. So yes, that is definitely a lot of things on the roadmap related to the ALM and deployment side of things. I have to agree. The next question is by Tanvir. It's can you please provide all? Yeah, okay. Well, I've already answered that question, Tanvir, so I'm not going to answer that again. You can see the chat window. Sunli, is it possible after exporting the package API to SharePoint and from SharePoint move it to some FTP server using Power Automate?
Personally, we haven't done it, but it would just be a matter of looking at connectors and see if there is a connector available for SharePoint and FTP sites. And if that's there, then it can.
Well,
The flow can
Logic
be
Apps
served.
supports the FTP connection, so you can use Logic Apps for doing those kind of things.
There you go.
Okay, Alexander's asking, for reoccurring report example, you needed pre-create the export data project. How do you move this definition from test to prod in an automated way? In my experience, the product does not do proper set of data entities to accomplish moving of this metadata.
Correct. I would say in that case, it would just become part of your deployment process. So these, think of it as more of a configuration rather than moving it as part of your code base. And you deploy your code. So basically, whatever you need to deploy, and after that also comes the configurations, and you can just consider this as part of your configurations. And your
so again, this is going to be the theme of Power Automate and Power Platform and CDS. The reoccurring theme you're going to see, guys, is that there is a difference between the way you traditionally deploy a FinOps solution with CDS and Power Platform. Essentially, it's heavily configuration based, metadata, and there are certain you do have to become familiar with all these different artifacts that you're shifting from one to another. It's just something additional to consider, but yes, definitely. One of the questions Sunli is asking is one more, for file exchange integration using FTP server, what is the best integration method to use?
It depends. So really what you want to use, there are different methods. You can use different, you can build your own libraries as well, and you can call this using X++ as well, but it's up to you. You can use Logic Apps as well to to get the file, upload it to the FTP, and do all those kind of things. So it's up to you. I have used both personally. Before even using Logic Apps, I was of course using building my own libraries to and there are tools available online which you can call in within your library. Like the simple example is like the secure SSH.NET things. You can build a library, your own library as well, add it as a reference in your finance and operation, and use X++ code to do that. Or you can use Logic Apps to connect to the FTP if you don't want to write the code. So it's up to you. But preferable way is, nobody wants to put more effort. So preferable way is explore the part of using Logic Apps, which provides inbuilt capabilities to the FTP, use for connecting to the FTP.
Correct. One addition that I have for this is, it also nowadays it's not just the ease of building or integrating applications. What also matters is how much it's going to cost you. Is there a recurring cost? And how many users are going to use it? So you just cannot use easy things to make connections. You also need to see the usage, how many users are going to use it, and then factor in your licensing, because it may be very easy for you to build, but we have seen instances wherein, say for example, if something is costing you on a transaction basis, and if you do thousands of transactions, you are spending a lot of money even though you build it really fast. So you have to have a long-term vision to find out where your company wants to go. Is cost an issue for them? We have seen instances where cost definitely is an issue, and instead of, in some cases, going on a record by record basis, we had made sure, okay, let's do it on a file basis, because every call is costing you money. So figure out an option, and once you know what it is, then you can start building either the custom, as Sukrut mentioned, or start leveraging something like Logic Apps.
So again, good feedback, good advice from Satish and Sukrit on that when it comes to solutionizing. There is more to consider. So yeah, Dr. Ludwig asks, why did you use a UI flow for the month-end close process? Isn't there a ledger fiscal period entity that you can use in a normal and cheaper flow? Is UI flow attended or unattended?
Sure. Uh, I'll answer that question in a political way. I'll say UI flows came out, and the intention for us was to show the power of UI flows rather than whether this specific scenario is suited more or less for UI flows versus not. So it kind of gives folks idea on what we can do, and then it's just a matter of picking up whether you want to use a simple flow versus something like uh, the complex UI flows.
So
But there
Tunde is
is there is
asking
not
about
more to it.
Power Automate and can he use it to integrate with trial versions of D365 F&O environments just for testing purposes?
I don't think the
I don't
trial
think so.
environment
Yeah.
is it would be an issue, and the issue was what I mentioned earlier. It may be across separate tenants and whatnot, and you may never see the environment linking in your connection list, which means you can't proceed further. So it's better to I'll say it's better to get environments from the companies and then start exploring those.
So Riaz is asking, is there any license requirement for virtual entities?
That is something. This is fairly new. That is something I have to go into deep and explore more. It's just I just configured this demo yesterday. Considering this is in public preview from only 2 days back, and just to explore some things and get an idea. So that is something that part needs to be explored yet. So I do not have a solid answer right now for that particular question.
And then he goes on to say, what is the advantage of using a virtual entity concept over F&O connector that is default in CDS?
So so the vision of Microsoft is to bring all the apps on CDS, right? And for F&O is way lagging in that particular thing, right? So the virtual entities exposes all the F&O entities to the CDS, so you can easily build your. So now the Power Platform world is kind of, and you using Power Apps, Power Automate, you can now using CDS connector, you can write, read, do all kind of operations within F&O. So the future is going to be, maybe, who knows, the F&O connector is not going to be there anymore, and only you can use CDS connector through the virtual entities. So so the future is going to be all in CDS, and you can build your you can utilize more capabilities of Power Platform through the virtual entities.
Great point.
As well as you can integrate other Dynamics 365 apps very easily, and you can access, instead of replicating data. For example, now with the dual ride, we are syncing the data between two systems, master data and setup data, configuration data. Now, if you want to access things which are not present as a part of, you can access any data within finance operations through the virtual entities, and you can directly access those entities using your other applications like sales or customer engagement, where you can customize entities which are present within those applications like customer engagement, and directly access these virtual entities and add fields from these virtual entities in those applications, which will give you the data directly from finance and operations.
Good point. And another point, just to mention while we're on the topic, is the way CDS is licensed. It is licensed by per gigabyte of data. It's a highly optimized database, and you don't consume storage, which is another great thing. Is you probably want to keep your data usage on your CDS as low as possible. So that's another angle you can take it from as well. Okay, so Karithika is asking, any solution to access or get data from standard entities of D365 which is public property? No, in CDS.
No, that is not supported right now. So if you want to access all the entities as virtual entities within CDS database right now, you have to have is public property to yes, set to yes. If it is standard entity, of course, you have to create your own by duplicating it. Or if you want to apply your own logic, you can create your own entity. If you want to write any business logic on that entity, you can write that and make it as a public, and then it should be available for you.
Yeah.
And
now, guys, look, you're doing a lot of fantastic work. I'm really impressed by all the sessions you've delivered over the 2 days. Dr. Ludwig, MVP, would like to connect with you because I know Dr. Ludwig has been doing lots of stuff on flows. He's done some really good demos. So please connect with Dr. Ludwig, share your details, get connected, so that you can carry on showing off these latest capabilities of Power Automate. That would be really that would be really good. So
Sure.
yes, so again,
One thing
Yogesh,
I would like to mention about, and I forgot to mention about this virtual entity, is whatever is business logic written behind the scenes on your entities as well as table level that get executed when you call these virtual entities through Power Platform or through CDS or any other applications using virtual entities. So your business logic is get executed, because at the end the whatever request we are getting through virtual entities get transformed into the physical entity instances which are present within finance and operations. And there is behind the scenes a lot of things are happening, which when you get the query expressions from virtual entities, those gets called into the query build data source and other technical concepts within finance and operations. So all the business logic gets called. So we don't have to worry about all those things. Your all business rules are getting validated when you call all these operations.
really good point. Really good point there. So yes, so everyone just saying thank you so much. Obviously, we're all very gobsmacked. Lots to learn, lots of new features, and yes, so yeah, everyone just saying thank you. Really, all the attendees over the past 2 days. And Yoshima, Ryu Cowboy, Japan Cowboy. Yeah, he's mentioning also that you can also the sessions from BizApp Summit are also people. Please go to the community.dynamics.com, because obviously all the sessions obviously. I mean, our plan is to share these sessions. We already have a YouTube channel, but we're going to share these on the community forum as well. But also the BizApp Summit videos are also there. That's so basically just a comment from Japan Cowboy, Ryu Yoshijima. But yeah, everyone else is saying thank you so much. So everyone just thanking you really. So again, thank you to everyone. Thank you Satish and Sukrit for doing a really great teamwork. Really managing to cover so much topics in such a short time. Really impressed. And really, Dr. Arnaud. Andre Arnaud. Obviously, he's always been a very big. He's been in so much for the community on the community forums and all of his expert level sessions, and obviously Dr. Ludwig has been helped. He helps. In fact, Dr. Ludwig helps a lot in organizing, some of these events, and he's got an event in Germany coming up, and so yeah, so doing fantastic work. All the other speakers, so many others that have played a very crucial role. And look, we're doing another event. We're doing a retail focused event in August. So we didn't cover retail because we have a whole event focused on retail. So don't miss that one. Yes, it's great. It was great for the FinOps community to come together. It's not often that, the FinOps community comes together. So it's really nice to see, and it just shows that the FinOps community really needs to be respected, because you've got such great community, contributors and MVPs that are doing so much really great work. So again, round of applause for all the FinOps MVPs, and it feels so good. All of us are coming more together. At one point, the CRM world and the Power Platform world, the FinOps world was completely separate, and that's changing now. It was great to see FinOps people showing how to use Power Platform, how to use the stack together, and it just feels like we're becoming one whole community. So it just feels like a great place to be right now. So thanks again for all the sessions. We are going to be awarding prizes. I think I think this last chance to complete the survey. We want to know what was your favorite session. I'm going to post a link again to the survey so that we can announce the winner, hopefully, whether it's tomorrow or next week before the next event. Our next event is actually next Saturday and Sunday, and it's Power Platform Developer. So that event's going to be, again, focused purely on Power Platform development. So essentially, it'll be PCF. So you've been learning about CDS. Well, PCF controls are basically how you develop on the new CDS and Power App framework, basically. So a lot of it will be focused on custom control development. It'll also be focused on Azure and Power Automate, extending Power Automate, Azure Functions. So it basically, the Power Platform developer event would have previously last year been called Dynamics 365 developer event, because that's essentially you would be developing Dynamics 365, but now it's Power Platform because essentially all those components, whether it's plugins, if you look at a plugin that executes on the CDS, that's Power Platform. That's regarded as Power Platform rather than the traditional Dynamics. So it's all naming changes, obviously, but it basically, in short, under the hood, it's all being replaced by the Power Platform, and you've seen that with FinOps in all the sessions in the past 2 days, and that's obviously been the case for Dynamics Customer Engagement. And so yes, so all the products, all the Dynamics 365 products are being architecturally overhauled with the Power Platform, as what's been demoed in this last session and in all the other sessions. So next week is Power Platform Developer event. So it's really for the developers, really. It'll be advanced level. It'll be at level 300, 400 type sessions. So yes, it's a great opportunity to learn. If you attend that event, it means basically you'll be able to develop on the full stack across Dynamics and the Power Platform. So make sure you attend that one. It is a full weekend event, Saturday and Sunday. So yes, obviously lots happening. The week after that will be DevOps Saturday. That'll be more focused on, obviously, a lot of questions around DevOps. We'll be focused on DevOps the following week, and then we'll have a session on Azure. We'll have one on chatbots. We've got action packed every week. Every Saturday we have something for you. So it's really, from a learning perspective, it's the best time ever. So lots to learn. All the resources are available if you follow us on our YouTube channel, Twitter, LinkedIn. We've shared it multiple times. So I'm not going to keep on posting it. Check your emails, check the chats, follow us on social media, and you will see all the information you need. So without further ado, I'd like to thank everyone, all the speakers. Thank you, Japan Cowboy, Ryu-san, Yoshijima Ryu-hai, for sharing the Embass link as well. Thank you once again, everybody. It's been a great weekend. Yes, we'll see you all next week. May the power be with you all. Have a great week.